of honor. Yeah, no, not really.
If your Prius got squashed by a semi-truck and the driver just laughed, he didn't give a full lip, buddy, you better man up with Man-O-Rama. If you just can't seem to find a chick into who you can put your devotion, son, you should man up with Man-O-Rama. Come hear what you should have learned when you was a lad. If only you'd not had that sorry excuse for a gender non-specific parental figure. If the guys from work want to grab a beer, but you decline cause you're just too queasy, man, you need to man up. Come on, suck it up, buttercup. Oh, buddy, you just better man up with Man-O-Rama.
Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Live?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Man-O-Rama. Tonight, I have, of course, your host, Rancor Steve. Say hello, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
I have another special guest. He's seen the big, he's seen the bad, he's decided to fight villainy, the comic relief crusader. Say hello, sir.
Hello, everybody in the geekosphere.
He's big, he's bad, he knows everything in terms of aviation and naval warfare. It is JRC. Say hello when you can, sir. I know you're drinking.
Hi. How's it going, everybody?
better after than this long delay. You're good.
Coffee.
That was so
It is the blood of the
anticlimactic.
So I am glad to be here on the 8th episode. We've made it this far without being canceled, banned, blocked, shadow banned. I don't know. Whatever, pick your choices of attacks. But we are here on this. I think every episode is a special episode of Man-O-Rama. Hello to everyone in the chat. It's good to see everyone. It's good to see everyone on the panel. I think Lost Wanderer Jeff's going to be here a little later, and I think Andy Masterson might pop in a little later.
Ooh.
And yeah, so I just wanted to, see how everyone's week's going. Like, it's just, I don't know if you guys are on the West Coast, but there's a freaking storm of brewing. Holy crap. They said it's like a category 3 hurricane. And I was talking to Gary, I was like, has anybody in California ever seen a hurricane? You guys got earthquakes, hurricanes, man? He's like, I've been to hurricanes.
I've seen hurricanes.
Does it identify as a hurricane, or is it an actual hurricane?
I guess like the wind and everything, the rain, it's a pretty nasty storm this coming. I heard it's like the worst storm that the town that I'm in has had in like years. So I'm like, okay, maybe it might be a little serious. I'm from the East Coast. I know what hurricanes are.
I'm in the East Coast, so yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it is. It's
I know. I think the Pacific is a typhoon, isn't it?
the Pacific, yeah.
Yeah, typhoons officially.
I think that's what it is.
Or monsoons or something like that.
And
I think monsoons are in Asia.
They are. But you know how
So it could be
hurricanes
typhoon.
are now that identifies male names. So, Hector.
Right. Exactly.
See, that's the thing. I've always grown up. I always wondered, is like, how do they come up with these names? You get Enya, Pinta, Santa Maria. It's like, all right, we got the Spanish names down. Like, if they got one guy who's just like, all right, you want guy names? Hector, Jose.
Phil.
Not funny. Phil, Bob. Well, Hurricane Bob is coming.
Bob.
And it's always like the
Phil.
weather lady that's like, what if that's a thing? That's what they should do. They should, like, every newscast for every woman, because they always had the women that's doing the weather stuff. Growing up, that's what it was. Because you needed to look attractive, the weather. So you pick a pretty weather lady. What if they just, like, her ex-husband, his name Bob, is like, Hurricane Bob.
I was about to be all, I think JRC has like the best stone face out there. He's just like not moving. He's holding a smile. And then he dropped off. Welcome back, JRC.
Sorry. We're testing out. We actually have, we decided to try to switch over to T-Mobile internet. And I guess maybe that is a test failure right there. So, yeah. Sorry.
I thought you were like messing with us, but then I realized.
Well, the hurricane that was going on right now.
Okay. So, how is your guys' week going? I know it's the new year. This is the first episode of 2023. And I just want to know how you guys' week's going. How you guys doing? How you guys dealing with this first week of the new year of shenanigans?
Well, I actually am doing great. Since,
yeah.
Am I still here?
Go
I don't know.
on.
I
You're still here. Yeah, you're still here.
Okay, good. Just making- so anyway, yeah. Let's see. Is this coffee working? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, no, I'm doing great. My stepson actually just got in the Rose Parade with his school, so that was pretty sweet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was so he asked me because he knows I'm originally from the West Coast. He's like, "Is there anything I got to do?" And I was like, "Yeah, 4x4 with whole grilled onions, animal style fries, and a chocolate root beer float." And he looked at me. He's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, just ask around. People will know." So
Because sometimes
But,
crazy works.
yeah, it does. I mean, you just have to just tell them, and there's things that go on. So pretty sweet. But yeah, he had a great time, and his school's been invited back again to play the Rose Parade anytime they actually want. So which is
Wait,
neat.
so have you ever had an In-N-Out?
Oh yeah,
You have?
oh yeah.
So here's the thing. Before I moved to California, everyone was all about In-N-Out. And I was like, all right, cool. I tried. I was like, this is the best coming from the Midwest. Now living in California, In-N-Out's kind of like, eh.
Well,
Like-
I'm sorry.
It's
Well, I
lost its
grew up on
luster,
it.
huh?
It
Yeah.
has. It's just one freaking burger. Give me something else. Chick-fil-A, man. That's where it is.
There's a Chick-fil-A down the road. There's a Freddy's down the road from where I am. There's a Zaxby's is good. That's a good one.
I remember at the church I was at, they did this whole 40-day fast. And I was like, the girl I was dating at the time, I would bag on Apple, and I still will. Because Apple's a piece of
Yeah.
shit and garbage and
Don't get me
communism.
started
You know what?
about that.
And our show is blinked because I just said communism. Anyways, so
Here's the same as Samsung. Anyway,
well, at least Samsung in South Korea. I have a Samsung. But anyways, that's here nor there. She said, how about I give you a challenge? You don't talk about or bash Apple at all for 40 days. I was like, well, what's it in for me? Because it's a bet or a challenge. I won't do a challenge or a bet if I know I'm going to lose. I just won't do it. She goes, all right, if you don't talk about it for 40 days, I'll buy you In-N-Out. Okay. And I did the 4x4. Let me tell you, man, that's a really tough one. And I did it in 4 minutes. I was hungry. I was like, I'm gonna do the 4x4. And then they stopped, not because of me doing it, but they realized we can't do these big burgers at In-N-Out because of the danger, like the health wise of it. I felt like I was having like a heart attack, a stroke, and diabetes all in one take. I was like, I am about to just keel over and just die. Like, I can't do this anymore.
at
And
least you'll die full, unlike some people around the world.
but it sucked. Like, have you so
Yeah,
KFC?
true.
I don't know if they do this, but it's the double decker. Have you seen this?
There's also
I think I might have.
menus for fast food joints around the world. I actually went to Saudi Arabian McDonald's one time, and
I
they
heard that's
had
crazy.
they had
How
a
was that?
quadruple chicken mac, which was 4 fried chicken patties. It was delicious. It was literally that tall, but yeah. So Saudi Arabian quadruple chicken mac, 2012.
Tony Stark says it is a double down. That's what it was.
Yes,
I actually had this, and I had a buddy of mine who he likes to eat a lot, and so he taught me a lot of like what's good and what goes with good in food. And he said, "Buddy, don't do the double down. I just trust me on this. Don't do it." And I was like, I gotta try it. Everyone says it's really good. It is. It's really good. But 30 minutes after you try it, your right side goes numb. One of your sides goes numb. Like, I couldn't feel my right leg, my right arm. I couldn't. I was like, is this like, am I gonna see God in a few minutes here? Because I'm about to it was miserable. Yeah, that's a 4x4.
So
yeah.
that's
there's the
okay. So the
that's-
4x4 is
that's-
not just a patty cheese; it's everything.
Yeah, it's
I
4
want
cheeses
that.
and 4
Dang.
patties. Dude, I ate that
boy.
4 minutes and I was in pain.
And
But
who
I
makes the double down?
Double Down was a KFC. I don't know if they're doing it anymore. But it's like 2 fried
Huh.
chickens and then like
Oh,
2
I think I
fried
can get that for you. One sec.
Yeah, a few. God, now you're gonna make me hungry. But dude, I love. Yeah, that's the thing. God, dude, It's delish.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
That looks.
You want to talk
splendidly
about? You want to talk about meeting God? This is it.
Dude,
I
over
think-
the past
think
60
that's it.
pounds, I don't need to be tempted with this. It's like, oh,
Well, that's gonna give you
God.
120 right there.
Yeah, I think that's the book of Second Hesitation.
Yeah, I know, right?
Chapter
Yeah.
6, verse 66. So
That's Second
yeah.
Revelations
that's right.
3:18.
Book of
Oh, it's gonna reveal something, all right. Just not
Dude,
exactly
you
what you want.
wanna-
Thou shalt not
Okay.
feel your left arm. It's not a heart attack. It's just an emotional movement of your
Yeah.
body saying why.
Or maybe a
Yeah,
poop.
exactly.
I don't know.
Dude, but that's the thing.
Center.
So here's one thing about now that we're talking about food and all that stuff. This is a great segue.
I had
So
Bojangles for dinner. Anyway.
growing up,
There's
I
a bit
never
out.
growing up, I had a problem. I have a really high metabolism, like insane. And
Are you
everyone's always saying,
hypoglycemic?
what?
Are you hypoglycemic?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
I think it's a thyroid issue actually that actually boosts your
Oh.
metabolism like crazy. So you could eat like maybe 60 pounds of food in one day and not gain an inch.
I might have that. To be honest, that's my southern
Mhm.
side. I don't know. That's a big word, but I
Oh, excuse me. Hypoglycemic, y'all. Anyway, so
y'all coming around here, y'all come fine. But
Yeah.
I for the longest time I couldn't gain weight. I was when I got into college, I was 109 pounds. Let's put this in perspective. The Machinist, that Christian
wow.
Bale movie, he was 109 pounds.
hey,
That's the perspective of it. Like
that was me in seventh
he
grade.
had to lose weight.
Yeah.
I
You
was
know,
gaining weight.
I really love SP's comment. Delicious, but ill-advised.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That's a great marketing term right there.
It is. And so when I started working for Jerry, doing construction and doing all the model stuff, we would eat like meals. And it wasn't like healthy meals. And I went from 120 pounds to, and this was like last year, I think, yeah, like last year, something like that. And then I got the flu and I lost a lot of weight. I went from 120 pounds, was gaining slowly over the course of 2 years. And then last year I was 147 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't fit any of my jeans. And I was like, what's going on? I was gaining weight like crazy. And then I lost it all. So I'm like 135 right now, which is good. But being 5'5" or 5'4", sorry, I like to say I feel like I'm a woman when I say 5'5", but really I'm lying about my height. Like how they lie. Like people like. Have you guys on your driver's license ever lied about your weight?
No.
You can be
not
honest.
really.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's like-
did. I put 10 extra pounds on. I'm 100 pounds. I'm 130 pounds.
Hey, my baby
No,
sister's
really?
my baby sister's 5'7", 5'8", and she actually used to get so offended for being like a tall woman. She always thought that was offensive.
I put on my driver's license when I lived in LA, 6'7". And I had
Really?
dude, this was hilarious. I had a car, a 1980s Audi car where the light wouldn't work. And I had to use a screwdriver in college to pop the light to turn on. And one time it looked like a drug dealer's car, just ghettoed out, just bad. And I loved the car. And the cop goes, "Can you get out?"
Yeah.
He looked at my driver's license. He's like, "You're not 6'7". I was like, "No, I'm like 5'4". And then he's like, "You don't look 150 pounds." I was like, "No."
Ooh. Can we do that for a show? Like, what is your worst
I had an
cop
accident.
interactions?
Yeah.
Like being pulled over?
Oh man, yeah, we could do that. We could talk
Oh,
about.
man.
That'd be funny. I got some. This good Christian conservative, conservatarian has a lot of good pullover stories, if you know what I mean.
Oh man, living in the Midwest, you can do a lot of crazy things. But
Oh, do I got one? Oh boy.
yeah, it's. We'll come up with a
But
segment.
if you want a food challenge,
We'll come up with a segment of like Like, okay, so when you guys drive and you see a cop just minding his own business, driving right behind you, do you guys get nervous?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
Like
I
your
start
knuckles go
rushing.
white, you just saw a
When they
ghost.
start following me, then yeah.
No, for some reason, I do the weirdest thing. I just
Only when
automatically
they
throw my
start.
car in reverse for some unknown reason. I just don't know why I do it. It's an unnatural transmission drop. I just have to do it.
Whenever I think a cop is following me, I'm like, I'm gonna turn here, like he's not gonna know. And then he follows me. I was like, oh crap, he knows.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything bad. It's just like I slow down. I don't know why. I get nervous. So it's like, man, I'm bald. I'm short. It's like, dude.
I think it's just that inherent. I think it's just that inherent, feeling that you get for authority figures. Like, oh, I better obey the law because, X, Y, and Z. I suppose. Yeah. I mean, whenever they start following, making sure I go the speed limit, making sure I'm just checking everywhere. Do I have my lights on? If it's dark, oh yeah, I do. And I just go on driving until they turn away, and that's it. Then I'll just speed up down. Unless, of course, my wife's with me, and then it's like, no, you better just obey the speed limit. Okay, fine. So
You have to stop. Have you guys seen the
I'm
video where the guy? Have you seen the video where the guy is drag racing a cop, and his wife's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "He blinked." That's the tell side of like they're gonna race. But we're gonna get into our favorite segment that the fans, everyone who watches, our favorite little segment of "Don't Be That Guy." And this is where now we changed it up a bit. These are tweets given to that either given to us or we find, and we'll make fun of the simps betas. There's a little twist. One of these tweets is a little bit of a twist. I found one and it flipped. Ooh. And we're going to go through these, and we're gonna first make fun of the simps. The twist one you don't have to make fun of. I just think it's hilarious. And we're also going to critique of like, this is how you should have approached this kind of thing. Instead of just making fun of simps and betas, like let them know, like, you made a stupid comment, but let's build them up of like, hey, this is a much more proper way of doing it. So let's get into this fun thing. I adore this segment here. So whenever you're ready, Goat. All right. This is it. Oh, God. Call me Homer because all I do is simp, son.
Boo. Bad joke is bad.
All right. Here's the critique. You should have said simp baby at the end. Simp, son. Are you like this is clearly a tweet, this is his main tweet and everything. Like he wanted the world to know. And I couldn't find how many likes or anything. Probably got no likes. But to me, this is more of a desperation. Like he doesn't care kind of situation. He doesn't care if the world knows he simps. And the problem with that is a lot of guys who just don't care. They don't care about themselves. Yeah. So if you didn't care, you wouldn't put that in the first place. Like I could see him having fun. That could be a little like troll thing. Call me a Homer because all I do is simp, baby. Like he could have a little fun doing it, but I don't think he's having fun.
True.
You probably met Javier on whatever app, and he's all like, "Yeah, I'll simp for you." But what do you guys think about this?
To tell. It's hard to tell without knowing the whole context. For me, at least.
I think it's just a regular tweet. He thought this would be great.
But you know what? Go back to school and learn how to capitalize because Homer, being a proper name, should be capitalized. Add a comma after simp, son, and put a period at the end of your sentence.
Unless he's talking about baseball. I don't know.
See, that's the other thing. Homer, like, is he? Yeah. I'm a Grand Slam home and simp, son. Well, clearly, he's not a dad. We just knew that for sure.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
look at his profile picture. Can we get a zoom up of his profile picture? I was kind of giggling at that.
Dude, this
Oh,
one,
that-
yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, I mean,
Like he has the arm. He's doing the Forrest Gump thing going on.
yeah.
He has the arm on his waist, and he's like, "Yeah," and a
Does
selfie.
he?
I don't get why guys do that. Can you guys
Yeah,
explain this to me?
Sashay. No.
I know you guys don't do this because you're men and you don't do selfie profile pictures. Now, granted, I used to, like, if I was doing the gym and stuff, like just to see the progression of like my weight and everything changing. But why do guys like think this is a great thing? Are they thinking, well, women, really gorgeous women do this. How about I do this? Like,
I only do that when my hip hurts. So
dude, I do that too.
So I found another one for you
there
there.
go.
Same account.
Same account. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Oh, this guy's just a kid.
JRC.
Oh.
He's just a
Yeah.
Hey,
just a
no,
kid.
no, he's not mine. He's not mine. No, no, he's not mine. He's not mine.
Hey, we
I
all
don't know.
know shore leave means something, but you know.
Yeah, no.
But let's get to the next tweet.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, is that the same account too? Sorry.
So this one, okay, this one is the twist. And I this guy, this is my favorite. This is the twist simp. This is where women it flips on women. There are sometimes it does with women. Did 150 push-ups today. Okay. Wow. What's the secret? And then the guy, I love it. He goes, just imagine you under me. Here,
Oh,
well, okay, this is why this is such a classic. First off, saying did 150 push-ups today. No one cares.
Oh my god, that fits perfectly. I didn't even move the photo. That's great.
Perfect timing, dude.
But
Perfect
here's
timing.
here's a little I saw this and I thought, this would be a great time to change it up a bit. Is he wanted to post, hey, look, I'm proud of doing 150 push-ups today. I don't know if he did it all at one time. Congrats, awesome. And
Yep.
I try to do that. It's an accomplishment. Once you actually get to it, it's an accomplishment. But then it's so proud.
God. That's
the thing is, I can
that's
hear
good.
Tom Kinney's voice now in that
Yeah,
tweet
me
right
too.
there. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
150 push-ups today. Yeah, exactly.
So what's weird is a lot of women, there are some women that watch the show. Here's a little advice. Don't ask us what the secret is.
Oh, I know what the secret is.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you just use your arms. That's the secret.
That
But-
or I
Oops. Are you hope and pray to God?
That's the secret. I just post pictures of SpongeBob and say that's me.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
But-
the secret is that you write a tweet saying that you did 150 push-ups with no proof. That's the
Exactly.
secret.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the secret.
Or you did 150 push-ups, but did you do like maybe 10 a day for 15 days?
Yeah,
technically,
day
that's
150.
Now I've actually done the whole.
Or you did a push-up a day for 150 days.
See,
Knees or no knees.
Ooh.
Exactly.
So I actually did the challenge. It was like 30 days. You do 100 push-ups a day. And you
Mm.
try to do it all at once. And I was ended up to do about 250 push-ups with a little break. There's no way I was getting up to that, but I was able to actually do about 50 push-ups at one time. Oh yeah, I was pretty
Oh, yeah.
jacked, dude.
Them anchor arms.
Yeah.
That's me in about 30 days. But
Now
The thing
I'm a
about-
jerk and everyone loves me.
Me.
But the thing that I love about the guy is he didn't care what she said. So he's like, this is a perfect opportunity to make an innuendo joke. And
I
that's
don't think he
motivation. That could be motivation for him. I don't think he was simping. I think she was a little bit of like, wow, what's your secret? Like, Now, granted, this could on Twitter, on social media, guys, you do have to be aware that sometimes if it has a female name and a female picture, it sometimes may not be a female. It might be a guy. That's
Yep.
I knew a lot of
What?
guys in college that did that on Facebook, and it's hilarious. They would pick the most drop dead gorgeous as the profile picture, and then they would just get guys. And I was always asked guys like, why do you do this? Like, there's nothing else to do in Midwest, so gotta do this. And I was like, all right. But that's the thing on Twitter. You gotta have to be kind of figuring out maybe this is an actual real woman. And usually you can tell. And but I just like his response. It wasn't like I think he just wanted to post it. He is like, this is my accomplishment of the day. And that's the thing about this tweet that I got out of it. And I could be wrong, but it's when guys type and share their accomplishments, we should never bag on them. Be like, you know what? I was able to run 6 miles today. Awesome.
Yeah.
Go for more. Challenge them.
Yeah.
And it's as guys, we should build each other up. Like if they accomplish something, be like, I did 150 push-ups today. You know what? That's awesome. Like, try to go for 260 or 200. In fact, go for 200 tomorrow. See how that goes. Just see if you can do it. If you can't, just see how far you can get close to 200.
Usually I just tell guys straight up that say, like, wow, you did 150 push-ups? Yeah, I can't do that. Good job.
Yeah, compliment them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like whenever I go to the gym, I always I look at how other guys are doing the forms. And if they're doing it wrong, I'll come up there and be like, hey, because I don't want to do like come up there and be like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Just talk to them. There was a guy that was he was deadlifting, I forget what it was. It was insane numbers. And he was trying to be in for the competition for bodybuilding. And I told him, I was like, you know what? Like what you're doing is very inspirational for me to accomplish something that I want to go. I just saw that. That's so true. It is. And
I'm so jacked.
I have a body.
Look at me. All my muscle.
I'll show you where the
jacked
chopper
up.
is.
That's right.
So if any of you have been to the gym, there's a giant mirror.
Oh, yeah.
And I will look at the mirror only to look at my form. I have bad shoulders and bad knees, and I want to have the right form so I don't actually injure myself doing all that stuff. And
I look at the mirror in the gym for me, but our gym is on board. I'm looking at it so that way I make sure nobody's sneaking up behind me.
Yeah. Peekaboo, I see you.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had one girl, she got mad at me because she thought I was looking at her. And she's like, why are you looking at me? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to look at my form. Like, for me, the gym, I know a lot of guys go there to look at the women. For me, the gym, it's like dedication. Like, I'm there to work on myself. Like, I'm not there to focus on anyone. I'm not there. I don't care. If someone wants to help spot me, cool. I'm down. I'll be a spotter for someone else and go back and forth. But it's just, the whole like how women kind of intervene and been like, oh, this and that. It's like, guys, just be a little cautious. Sometimes if you know the girl, then that's a little bit different. If it's just some random person on Twitter, like be like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Well, have you seen there are girls on TikTok that I've seen that intentionally trap men at gyms for doing that. That they'll I saw there was one video where this girl she intentionally set herself up by the mirror and she's doing obviously like almost like yoga stretches, which
I've seen that.
Yeah, and the guy that was looking at her was actually just an employee of the gym. He was spotting someone and he was just looking around just to make sure everybody's okay, because that's what you do when you work at the gym. You just you randomly look around to make sure everybody's doing okay, there's no problems or anything. And he was like on the other side of the gym, and she just started yelling at him. It's like, what are you looking at? You getting a good view or something like that? And guys at the gym, be careful. There are women out there that are setting up these traps so they can get TikTok views. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Exactly. And like Steve said before, girl could be a dude, just like that Aerosmith song.
Also, the girl could
it's
be a dude
funny.
in real life at the gym. It doesn't have to be on Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Touche
So
with you there.
let's get to the next glorious tweet. That guy's jacked.
I pick things up and put things down. Sorry.
Everybody,
Been there, done
Yeah.
that.
give me a stoggy now.
Yeah.
All right, so this one, it's a double. I love the second one, but it goes, I'm so sorry, Addison. Anything you need, I am here for you. This is nonsense. Now, I don't know
Sorry,
what
I'm reading this.
caused this part, but I love the simplies. No, I'm here for you.
Oh my gosh. I am now a subscriber. Gee whiz, that is hilarious.
Wow.
I'm going to find this guy. I'm going to subscribe. Simplies, you got my vote.
Punctuation, people.
Wee woo, wee woo.
Punctuation.
Here's the problem. Okay, so if guys want to get women's attention, I want to get everyone's perspective of this. When guys want to get a woman's attention, don't do it this way. You sound desperate. You sound only
You sound like an
27
idiot.
likes. It's probably all a bunch of guys are like, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
And then Simply is like, no, you can't. But I wanted to see, but the thing is, I also want to see what other comments, because there's 14 other comments. I wanted to see the rest. This is a tweet tease.
It's a tweet tweeze. Sorry.
Oh man, I wanted to know. But that's the thing, like if you don't, this is, guys, if you're
The dude could be genuine here.
who
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Well, true, it could be.
Yeah.
But he used 2 exclamation points, and it's, I don't know. It's, to me, that's a cry of desperation of like, look at me, I'm here for you. Like, I guarantee you, women don't want that. They don't. On Twitter, I imagine women don't want guys to be this desperate. Like, I'm here for you. This is nonsense. Like, it could be that her order got mixed up with at Chick-fil-A or something like that. I don't know. But
I wanted the grilled chicken, not the crispy.
yeah.
I can't believe they didn't give me my order.
So you don't want the spicy deluxe?
Oh God, I'm in hell.
Good.
Like Friday race
Oh.
it, don't be clingy. Exactly. I don't know any woman who wants to be clingy or wants a guy to be clingy, I should say. And that comes as kind of a desperation. It's a little turnoff. I always said that, I think I said in the first episode of this show or the second one. I think it was the first one. I don't know. You can correct me, guys. But I said, if a guy doesn't what is it? If a guy doesn't think about a woman, doesn't put effort in a woman, doesn't put time in a woman, but puts time in himself, women find that
Right.
way more attractive because they see that he's valuing time. He's valuing himself over anything else. And he's putting
Yep.
effort in, like, hey, I want to work on myself and get myself to the point. Try to hold all my affections so I don't look annoying.
Try to keep a straight face with what I put up sometimes.
God, that's
Dude, where do you find these guys? These are amazing.
As you guys are talking, I'm generally typing what you're saying and just saving and putting the image up as fast as I can.
So you got your meme generators on overtime. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, duck, duck, go, man.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
sponsored by DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, that's
But
cool.
I don't know. It's like what? How would you approach this if you had to write this tweet out? How would you approach this in a more civil way?
So like
I
I don't know.
trying
It depends on the context of
yeah.
what happened, I guess. See, without knowing the whole context of the whole story, that's just me. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, God, it could be, I don't know, maybe she got a traffic ticket when she didn't deserve one, or like you said, maybe somebody mixed up her order at Chick-fil-A or something like that. It's hard to tell, but maybe he was being genuine on a situation that was actually really serious, or if it was just something so stupidly trivial, then I mean that's a little overboard. So context to me, that's important.
Absolutely, context says everything.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at this, I mean, sometimes when I see something like this, like especially if it's a clip, believe it or not, sometimes I even look at the usernames. I mean, sometimes the usernames kind of give away a little evidence of what might be going on here. I mean,
Or the picture.
if I could read that, it's like, was it L-I lie spy no sexer? Is that like so? No sexer.
Plus look at the profile pic, right? That flashing that gangster sign. Ooh, yeah, you so badass.
Like, look at that. I'm
so
from the
to me, that's
side
saying
side.
player. Yeah, to me that says player.
Yeah.
And yeah, you might be a bit, yeah, exactly.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Oh, Carl.
I mean, I've had like Twitter interactions, Facebook interactions with people, like especially even women who said, something happened, and I said, I'm sorry if you. I would say something like this. I wouldn't be saying like, I'm here for you. More of like, hey, if you do ever want to talk, or if you need to talk to somebody about this, let me know. Or sometimes if it's a female, sometimes I even ask my wife, it's like, hey, do you want to deal with this? Because a lot of times, if it's a female, they need female interaction. That's the thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Andy Masterson.
Well,
hello.
Hello, Andy.
Hello, everyone.
Can we put in the Men in Tights theme song when he comes? Be awesome.
Ooh.
There you go.
What are you trying to say?
Nothing.
He likes his men tight.
Oh God! Just walked into that one, didn't we?
So there you go.
Bam!
I would just say tough luck, deal with it, move on. Like if
Guess who else is in the chat too?
Like if Gary and if I got a cut, like if we're working on a deck or something like that, and I get a splinter, Gary's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's like, "You want a tissue?" I was like, "Whatever." He's like, "Okay, walk it off."
Yeah.
But that's the guy thing. Like if
I got my leg amputated today, I'll just walk it off.
Hop it off, man.
Yeah.
But it's like I got both legs put off. All right,
just a couple of
just
legs.
handstand it off. But is there?
Exactly,
I think there's
right?
one more tweet. Yes, there is.
Oh,
all right.
Tweet?
This one, I
Ooh.
think I
think I know the one you're talking about.
It's the couple one.
The couple. Oh yeah. I think you're right.
Is it the one?
Dude, this one, I don't know if this is a gap to see. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I really hope this is a bit. I really do, because sometimes it's hard to tell.
Everyone who's watching, I don't know. A disclaimer: I don't know if this is just a gag or not. But turns out my wife has a rare, and you guys could probably help me with this one because I don't know what that one is. Recessive. Like, what is it? I know it's people of color, but what the BI stand for?
That means biracial person of color.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
biracial people of color. Jean.
Yeah, people of color. Yeah.
She told me how the science works.
That's exactly what I saw when I first saw that. I was like, really?
Science work when I saw she was black. Nature is amazing. All right.
Now, I will say this actually can happen for real. So, because my wife actually, because she actually wanted to become a doctor, this can actually happen in real life.
So what you're saying, it's like two white couple that have sex,
yes,
and then have a kid. It can turn out a different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, this occurrence is actually pretty rare.
Okay.
It is
That's fascinating.
rare.
Actually, that's really fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But
Well,
here's
like-
the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife and I, we're both brown hair and brown eyed, but both my
Right.
sons are blonde and blue eyed. It's like what I told you earlier, Steve. It's like it's amazing that Slav and a Jew gave birth to two Aryans. Who knew? Anyway, but you know,
But here's my problem.
None of them had a little mustache, right?
no. Crap! They found out on them.
9.
Yeah, no, yeah.
How old are you? 9.
9. You
But
have a low
here's-
voice for a 9-year-old.
Here's the thing. Just
Oh,
looking at the
yeah.
picture, just looking at what we have here, he's clearly from California. He just has that California, even the look. I've
He's got
noticed
that sleepy California look.
on the look, he has that whole like the puppet that you see. He has that look of like, I think I'm slowly figuring it out. I'm not quite sure, but
Is this where we zoom in?
and the daughter's like, the daughter's just looking like, you don't look like my dad. And
The daughter's like, "Hey, my dad's over there." Sorry.
he's the photographer.
Yeah.
He's the
Oh,
milkman.
God.
But
Hey, honey, where's that video from your bachelorette party?
Actually, if it was possible, we could go to like zoom in on the dad's face while playing "Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend."
but
Now-
here's the
The screwed
to
up
me,
part.
I think she's from the Midwest, so she's a little bit smarter. And she found a way of convincing her California. This is how I see it. Her California boyfriend, husband, I feel like, hey, look, I'm going to get this guy. He's going to believe everything. So I'm going to come up with this whole entire science project idea to convince him. He fell for it. It's any guy who's watching and you come along in this situation, run away. Just be like, I gotta go get some papers and not come back. Like, I'm sorry. If you're dealing
I'm
with a
going
woman
to get
who,
milk.
yeah, if you're dating a woman who, especially dating, and you have this problem, just go away. You're not in a contract. You're not in anything. Just go. Nobody in California. You're right. If you look, you'll see two
And
nigga
that
guys.
depends. It's San Francisco. As far as I know, that should be San Francisco.
It is San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco, where crap literally rolls down the hill.
It
Well,
is.
now it's getting washed down the hill because it got so
It
much
is.
rain.
Right.
Lombard
exactly.
is no
Because of
longer
that-
that brick red street anymore.
But that's the
No.
thing. It's if any guys in this situation, just get out of it. She's definitely from what I understand, from what we're seeing, she's cheated on him, and she's got some other guy's baby going, and he's gonna have to pay for it. That's the sad thing. He's gonna have to pay for it because she convinced him to be the dad. Get out of it. That's the other thing I hate. I'll get to that point, but I'll let you guys talk more. I feel like I've talked a little bit too much.
It's your show, so yeah.
Well,
yeah.
couple things here. Okay, so some mistakes that are commonly made. Before you make accusations, check things out. Go get your DNA tests and stuff like that, and and don't go and say listen, you cheating ass slut. I'm going to get a DNA test because I think you're a skanky whore. Say you know what, we're going to check in to make sure it wouldn't have any any congenital defects that could pop up too, because look, if one rare thing happened, maybe another one did. Okay, then
Right. Handle it diplomatically.
once you get a vasectomy, guys, make sure you go back and you get things checked out. I knew a guy, he actually had 3 vas deferens, and they clipped 2, and his wife turned up pregnant. And he's no good whore, blah blah blah. Kid comes out, it's his. Guess what? You're still divorced and you're still paying half your stuff for your other 2 kids you already had. So now you're paying child support for 3 kids because you jumped to a conclusion. So, of course, like, if you're ever in doubt, you probably shouldn't be getting married anyway, but,
True.
Well, I
I
would say
mean,
there was one time I
looking
did
at this,
see. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I mean, let's face it, something like I said before, a case like this is extremely rare. It can happen in real life, but it's extremely rare. But I mean, guys, come on, use some common sense here. The only thing they have in common is that double chin. Really, all 3 of them. That's about it. So, yeah.
both my kids look just like me. So,
I had one guy who tried to one of the famous things that people like to do when they argue online is like they try to swear that you're the cuck, and so they I had one guy who said, "Oh, he's definitely not your son. He's definitely not your son because he doesn't look anything like you." And like I said, I have brown hair and brown eyes, and both my sons have blonde hair and blue eyes. And the thing is that actually in my family, I used to actually be blonde when I was a little kid. So sometimes these things, they may not look the same, but in this case, yeah, you might, like as the great President Ronald Reagan once said, "Trust but verify."
Yeah. Now, of course, let's say hypothetically, okay, she did cheat on him. Okay. If this guy, though, is still willing to stick around and raise that child as his own, then you know what? Kudos to him, though.
Yeah. No, that is a very good thing.
Because at least he's willing to be a dad. If she cheated on him, the other guy didn't want to be.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that you've just tied yourself to a woman who has
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, like it's
but,
not.
But is the child one day going to see? You know what? Yeah, but you stuck around as a dad, despite all the other things going on.
That is possible.
Try to put a positive spin on it.
I knew a guy. He married a woman. She had 3 kids. Got divorced, and he married this girl. The kids were all young. He raised. Pretty much, he was there. The biological father's run the business, like wasn't involved in all. Kids got older after he did all this and everything. Then they went off and they needed a job, so he went to see their biological father, who gave them all jobs. Then the youngest one was a daughter, and she wanted an elaborate wedding. Went to see the biological father. Said, "Sure, here's $25,000." His wife ended up getting divorced, and he was sitting there at home, and they still stayed friendly. And she hadn't heard from him for a couple days.
Yeah.
So she goes to check on him. Here he had a massive heart attack sitting in his chair in front of the TV. He's still alive. She gets the ambulance coming. On the way to the hospital, has another massive heart attack and dies. So here's a guy that did the right thing.
Yeah.
All that, everything died alone because nobody bothered to check on the guy that raised them.
Wow. That's
now,
sad.
I'm not saying that blood's thicker than water, all that stuff, because that's not true. But
right.
Life
and I
is
get
hard.
that.
Life is hard enough. So you really you want to try and stack the cards in your favor as much as you can. So if you're with somebody and there's that doubt right there, you have to question. That's a red flag. You should not be because you're putting yourself in a bad situation, and you'll never ever know whether or not this woman actually cares about you, or whether you're just the dumb simp that was stupid enough to do what she wanted, and she might be using you. I just watched a video today of this woman. She's like, yeah, I just like it. There was a video of these women. They're sitting there. How many of you have, known that you weren't interested in this guy, but you stayed on the date so you could get a free meal? And they're like, well, yeah, we all have done that. And well, you don't have any distance to be like to complain about anybody because like that's just a screwed up thing to do. Be honest. Be as honest as you say that you want everybody else to be. But that's an issue that you have to look at. And sadly, I mean, yeah, all things being equal, wouldn't it be great if? Yeah, but you know what? We do live in a real world. And here's the other thing too. What if someday, you know, the biological father happens to be somebody this girl is like head over heels with? Then she finally gets the opportunity to like, you know what? He came back and said he's changed and he really wants like, all right, see you. Now, where are
Yeah.
you? You've connected with this kid that you're never going to see again. So on the one hand, you're on the hook financially. You're also there, like, and I've got friends of mine that have become, that are, stepfathers that are, absolutely fabulous fathers and that have absolutely fabulous relationships.
Mhm.
I have family members that, uh, girl was like raised by this guy, like the only father she ever knew, and like you couldn't ask for a better father to come along. But you have to weigh things that you have to be, especially in this day and age, where like look, there's all this crap going on where people are they're telling these kids, especially young women, that you'll be happier if you go and have these cheap, meaningless flings. They're encouraging it. And nobody's smart enough to do the math, okay? Because what's happening here is you got about 15% of the men, of all men that are on these dating apps. And these are your men that are like an 8, a 7.5 to a 10. And they're cleaning up. They're with a different girl every night. They're like, and you've got about like, 60% of the women on these Tinder sites and stuff like that are sharing this small percentage of men. And they're all being like, turned around. And meanwhile, you have these, the guys that are looking for like, looking for a relationship, and they can't find somebody to have a relationship with because like they're not like, they're not like, not my ideal. Like you're not over 6 foot. You're not over like, meanwhile, these are really good men that like they're kind of casting aspersions on. You don't make enough money. You don't have the, you don't have a degree, all this crap. But, and then once, if they ever figure it out, they're going to have this massive body count, and which is a big turnoff to a lot of guys. I mean, I don't know many guys would want to go into a party and like, oh, you're dating Mary. Does she still do that thing with her mouth? And like, like, oh, and everybody's like, yeah, it was great. She's like, and there you are, like, oh, I'm here with Miss, Hobags here, and by the way, that goes both ways because like, a woman doesn't want to walk into a party where like the guy she's with has banged like all the other women in the room too. So it does go both ways. But there's pressures out there convincing these women that men are disposable, and it's the whole purpose of this show, right? Is to encourage men that you can be a man, be better, be excellent and demand excellence, and you won't go wrong. So, I mean, that's I think is the big problem that a lot of people are running into.
It is because I mean, looking at society, which has been extremely influenced by media, what's on the television screen, what's on radio, what's in the music industry, what's being portrayed left, right, and center, movies, TV, music, in magazines and stuff like that. It's remember the old Nike ad, just do it, right? And I mean, it was pretty much that slogan that was taken to the extreme by everyone else, right? Oh, it's just, it's just sex. It's just this. It's just that, right? Every generation I found, I mean, being a dad and, and that has kids and whatnot, over the years, you just see it being taken further and further and further, pushing that envelope even further. And now look what we got as a society. Relationships don't really mean a thing, to the point where, we're not going to get married. It's just a piece of paper, right? It's made relationships
Disposable.
useless and redundant. Where, yeah, disposable. Where basically nobody just cares about anybody else, just as long as I get my hit, as long as I get my fix for the evening, or for the next week or whatever. You know, let's find out what the next flavor of the month's going to be.
Well, that's something I'd like
No,
to ask
nobody.
women. That men, men have all gotten together and they've laughed and made obnoxious jokes about conquest and all this stuff. At the same time, there's also been there's the one that it's like you have your friends, it's a circle. It's
Mhm.
several circles. You got your friends, you got your friends, and you got your really
Yeah.
close friends. Your really close friends are the ones that can say the most obnoxious things to you, but you've got a connection there that like there's an understanding. It's then you got the other friends that aren't there, but it's yeah, these guys we're tight and stuff like that. Then you got the acquaintances, who are out further. But that inner circle will know that you never bring up Jane, because that was really painful for Bob. And you never ever joke about that.
Yeah.
And women, and I've spoken to some women about different things like this, but I don't know that most women, you see the stories and you see things that women are saying, but I don't know how many women have actually had casual, meaningless sex without some hope that it's going to go further. They're actually going to have a relationship, because that's a level of cynicism that's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very depressing. Because I look, how many women want to cuddle afterwards, and so and men are all right, how can I escape? It's like When Harry Met Sally, right? It's I'm sure a lot of the younger guys have no idea what that movie is, but how many people, how many women really would like a relationship, but then guys says he's gone. Well, yeah, but you put yourself in that situation. It's the old adage, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? And it's still the fact that
Exactly.
it happens here, because the women are the ones that decide who they're going to go with. The men have to sell themselves. The men have to, or
Yep.
used to have to, work for a little bit and be impressive. But we've dumbed people down so much. It's oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. And here's the problem. The biggest problem is that you're going to have all these people that are doing all this carefree, meaningless stuff. And I think it's especially true for women, okay? Because just biologically speaking, women are at their peak during their younger years. And as you get older and talk to some older women, you'll find, and this is ladies, talk to the older women, you'll find that you get less and less attention from men as you get older. And you're going to find that your options start to drop. So the likelihood of you finding someone who's going to stick with you, and especially men, because men stay, attractive longer than women. They also earn more money as they get older, which are more attractive to younger women. So now you're competing with your competitions at the top of their game. You're waning, and your options are getting less and less and less. So you're adopting a bunch of cats is going to start looking really good. So you have to think ahead a little bit about what's in your own best interest. So,
well, the other thing is, I'll mention this right now. some people in the chat, especially Dan Crane, has mentioned this, have some women on the show to talk about what get a women's perspective of things. And I've talked to Gary, and a couple other guys, and the goal also is to actually have women on the show, and it would just be like 2 or 3 women, and we would just hear them out. It'd be maybe like 2 other guys, me and another guy, or just talking, asking questions, and hearing what women want in a man. And I think us talking about this is good, but this conversation deals with, we need to have a woman's perspective of it. It's, it's Andy's right. Women like to cuddle, and guys at some point, like, will be involved. Like, yeah, we like to cuddle when we're dating, but when we're married, we're like, I don't want to cuddle with you right now. Like,
I want to cuddle.
well, yeah, but it's one of those things where it's the dating and marriage thing is a little bit different. Like, dating, you're just like, I want to cuddle. You're just like all googly eye. It's this new thing. Marriage is like, it's for a guy, it's work. It's like, I need to work to provide for
of course,
all these things. And the thing about a lot of, and I don't want to bag on women, but the I think it was on Reddit that I was posted or something like that. The last image, a lot of women, I won't say a lot, I'll say some women do this to gain some type of gratification or money or something, where they'll bait and switch and bait, or bait and switch, however you want to say it, the guy that they're dating to take care of the kid that isn't even his. Like, that's the sad part, is a lot of guys, I always tell this, a lot of guys ask me, is like, well, what do you think about marriage? Like, they'll ask me a lot of questions being married, since I've been married for a few years now. And I was like, do you want me to give you the blunt, honest answer, or do you want me to give you the truth? And they always say, give me the blunt, honest. And I said, in the Western culture, being married as a man is pretty much a losing bet, because if you end up getting divorced, if you end up getting if you have kids and divorced, that's the worst one. You have a losing battle of having some type of custody of your kids. And 1 in 4 marriages is sexless. I didn't know about that one. I was shocked. I was like, dang. And if a guy is 55,
well, maybe with each other.
well, yeah. And another thing I looked into,
appreciate it.
If a guy is 55, and guys are more likely for suicide, and if a guy, let's say a guy who's like 55 years old, is married, has like a kid or 2 kids, ends up getting a divorce, and he loses full custody, which is very high. You have a higher probability of being a woman in that situation, of winning all that whole situation. That guy has a higher percentage of actually doing a suicide. And that's sad. And I always tell the guys, look, if you want to get married, you have to understand that it's work. And you also have to understand, to me, this is my perspective of it, that marriage was created through God. And if you put God in the center, you're going to have a much better marriage. Not saying it's going to be good, but it's going to help a little bit. And I always tell people, I was like, look, marriage is not supposed to discourage you, what I say, but it's supposed to help you understand, like, you know what, marriage, it's a whole nother situation that you have to be willing to put the effort of work into it. You're going to sacrifice years of work, and you're going to feel pain, and you're going to feel just what's going on. It's not, to me, dating is such an easy thing. Being married is such hard work. That's because I'm putting effort into my wife and putting effort into the future of my family. And I always say, and I told my wife this, that marriage is more beneficial for women than it is for men, because it's a whole different animal for us. And with how the West and how society has portrayed itself, is that women can pretty much skate through everything. And I think that's the problem. And a lot of women say, I want a nice guy, or I want this, I want a traditional man. Well, okay. A lot of guys when they get older, especially when they get closer to 30, they start wanting, like, I've done the club scene, I've done all this, I've hooked up with all these women, no big deal. But I kind of want a traditional wife. And traditional, whatever that might be, where she'll cook for you, or she'll do all these things, or she'll, like, if you give her a house, she'll make it a home. Like my wife, she's
Yeah.
made my place a home. And it's like,
Mhm.
wow, this is cool. I couldn't do this. That's the thing. Like, that's your thing. You got this. And I think guys, that's the problem. I think some women don't understand that, where they come from the TikTok, Twitch realm of things, Instagram, Facebook, or even Twitter, is they think, oh, I want a nice guy. Okay, well, a nice guy has a set of rules that he wants. He has guidelines. He wants this and that of a woman. And they're not that crazy. They're very simple things. If a woman like a guy wants a woman who can cook. Not saying you got to go make me a sandwich. Like, that's nice. Like, if my wife made me a sandwich, like, that's nice, cool. But it's guys come home from a long day of work. He doesn't want to cook. He just wants to relax. And if a woman's like, hey, look, if a guy drinks beer, I have a beer and I have a meal for you. Like, takes the effort to be like, hey, look, I want to provide for you now because you've worked so hard for me. Like, it's to me, that's nice. Like, in my marriage, we kind of split up the cooking. Like, if she cooks, I'll do dishes and all that stuff. Like, we cook really good meals. But generally, when a guy gets older, in my perspective, he wants a traditional woman. He wants a woman who's going to be able to not be seduced by other men or all this stuff, or go out and cheat. It's like he's like, you know what? I want a woman I can settle down with and be with. And that, how hard is that can be. And that's a nice guy. And I think a lot of women, it's really hard when they come from that Twitch, TikTok society area. They don't know how to grasp that a little bit. And I think a lot of guys grow up out of that. Like, a lot of women, when they get older, they grow up faster than guys do. That's just very common. It's stated facts. Guys growing up, we are idiots all the way through high school and college. And for some reason, a light bulb clicks on, and then we actually start growing up when we get into our 30s. And sometimes guys grow up a lot earlier. For me, it was after college. But it's this whole thing where some women think they can use the man as this bank of, like, you know what, like, I slept with 4 other guys. Okay. And I guarantee you, a lot of guys who want a traditional woman, or a lot of guys, I can pretty much agree to this, that a lot of guys don't want to be with a woman who slept with like 300 women or 20 women, or slept with 20 guys. I guarantee you that, because if she gets pregnant, who's the father? And it's,
Or what else is she carrying?
yeah, and it's like, like, as I got older, I realized, you know what, I'd rather have a wife who was pure in the sense of the sexual stuff, and didn't fool around or anything. And if I ended up marrying someone who did, okay, I'll deal with it. But I wanted someone who had a traditional background and who really put effort into what marriage is. And I'm not saying all marriages work out great. A lot don't. I can look at my folks, but I think a lot of times it's to be a man. It's also to understand you're going to go through a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to marriage. And I know down the road, we're going to get into that whole situation of marriage. Like, well, I want to get guys who have been married for a long time, guys who've been divorced, who just in that realm, so we have different perspectives and different ideas going around. And having women on the show once a month, or whatever the situation is, I think it would benefit because then we get to hear what they want and hear what they want in a man. And if any guy who's watching it, who's played video games and like who sees the show, I'd be like, let's see what this person has to say, and then maybe that will help guys understand, like, maybe I shouldn't be a complete slob and just play video games all the time and all that stuff. And I think doing that, changing it up, getting a different perspective of women on the show, because it's not easy being a guy, or being a man, I should say, and being married. It's a job. To me, it is, and it takes a lot. And yeah, so in that, let's get into the topic, which is gonna be real fun.
Let's start the show now. So
yeah, so that's the prologue. But this came up this week, and I just thought, this would be a great opportunity to talk about this and hear different, because everyone's going to have a different opinion of things. And I just thought, this is a really good situation. So Matt Walsh, who tweeted this out, it's really time to grow the hell up, folks. Way past time. And this is about adults buying toys. And I'm kind of in the middle a little bit. So, like, I have Legos, and to me, Legos is more of a constructive idea. If I'm building models with Gary, if I'm building
plural is
Lego.
Building models with Gary, do you call him up like, hey Gary, you want to come over and play Legos?
Oh, yes.
Officially,
you want to play this?
Is that what they call it?
Actually, Lego said Lego is
to me. And if there's guys who like to buy toys, that's cool. And I read a stat that 40% of toys that were bought last year were from grown men. And to me, there's a stage. And I know some guys, if they have a YouTube channel or they have a business and they have to buy toys, that makes sense. That it excludes you from that whole thing, because that's your business. You're making money off of that. So do that. But I was looking at it myself, and I have movie props, which could be kind of considered toys, I guess. I don't know, but it's like decoration. And I have Legos, and I have some toys. But I think what Matt Walsh was doing was he was getting a gut reaction out of people. And sometimes Matt Walsh plays with people and he trolls them and he wants to get a reaction. And some of the reactions I was seeing was they kind of missed the point of what Matt Walsh was trying to say. Was he was trying to, in my opinion, he was trying to prove a point that there's a lot of guys who are still stuck in this idea of go out and buy toys and play with toys and all this stuff. Like, we're supposed to be men and we're supposed to use our money elsewhere. If you want to go out and buy a gun for your gun collection and all that stuff, like, that's different.
I was going to say, I buy toys all the time, but they go pew pew.
Yeah. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion, because it just hit me. I was like, man, this would be such a great topic to talk about, because I'm sure different people have different opinions on this panel. Yeah. And it's just something that was intriguing to me. And I was like, man, it would be great to actually hear what other men have to say about this and get a perspective of it. Because I know Matt Walsh can be controversial, and he can say a lot of things that get people's reactions out of it. And I just kind of wanted to hear what everyone else's opinion was. And
I would actually like to throw my time over to Andy, because that would be actually a perfect topic for him, because of action figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, because I was going to say the same thing, because Andy and I kind of sort of come along the same lines, I guess, with this. But I'm going to let Andy go first.
Yeah.
Because
this is why conservatives
because you make these
lose the battle all the time, because they are not connected to the culture. It's like, so Matt Walsh comes at things from a very sterile, black and white point of view with most everything. And life isn't always like that. Life is usually pretty complicated. When somebody now, is there some validity to what you're saying? All right, if you're coming home and you're playing with toys, first of all, I don't. It was a very sad time for me when my son got older and I tried playing with him and I found out that it was gone. I didn't have the ability to put myself into a guy like I used to, and it wasn't there. I couldn't. It had been surgically removed from my brain. I wasn't able. I could watch him do it and take lots of joy and pleasure from watching him play with these things. But I wasn't able to get in there he would have some friends and they would do this stuff and and all that and but I knew I was faking. I couldn't get into that mindset. Now, when you were talking about this percentage of toys that are being purchased by adult collectors, as the adult collector, there's a specific kind of person who's collecting action figures. In my case, it's I didn't have any friends growing up. I was the oddball kid that read books and comic books and drew and things like that. I was allergic to everything in the planet. My athletic ability and coordinations that didn't change for me until I was about 16. And then when it did change, it was the year between my sophomore and junior year. One of my older brothers it took me downstairs, gave me a heavy metal mixtape, and said, "Here's the weight set. Here's how you do it. See you in 3 months." And I went back into school my junior year. Before school, he took me, got a real haircut, and went clothes shopping. And it was like my fairy godmother gave me a new life. But the action figures and the Legos and all that stuff was a vital part of my life. Now, and the funny part is you'll get people that will rag on science fiction fans and toy collectors and things like that. Meanwhile, you've got all these guys out there that have their man caves set up with all kinds of sports memorabilia that they never played in. They've got all the stuff memorized, just like there's guys out there that know every single difference between every Stormtrooper helmet and Darth Vader's helmet and all this stuff. There's more people out there that have all the sports stats memorized of people and stuff like that, which is kind of dude, that's, could be a little gay there. You're sitting there, obsessing over this guy this much, and they get all offended, but then they turn around and say, "Oh, look at you. You're sitting there, play with your toys." Well, so are you. The toys are just different. It's just for some guys, toys are cars. Some guys, a boat, a gun, archery equipment, you name it. Men have hobbies. Men have always had hobbies. But for people that collect these things, in many cases, these were formative lessons that we learned that were and this is why comic books aren't selling today, because they don't give those lessons. There's plenty of merch being sold, but that's all from manga and stuff like that, which is giving positive messaging out there. And my response to Matt Walsh was, yeah, because maybe the world would be a lot better if more people were surrounded by things that remind them of classic heroes that held traditional values, instead of what is, I mean, not for nothing, but how many women are seeing Matt Walsh walking down the street and they get a little moist in their pants there for him? He's bland. He's I'm Matt Walsh. I'm you're not doing it. And I'm not saying that I'm not inviting any girl to hey, want to check out my comic book collection? That's going to go real well. I'm not saying that, but it's
is that what they call it now?
You can't have the double standard. You can't say that this is ridiculous. You can't do that. No, this is they do the same thing with video games. Video games, it's a childish waste of time and stuff like that. You know what? That's why you keep losing this argument. You keep making enemies out of people you don't have to make enemies about. Look, you want to talk about growing up? Growing up
Yeah.
means at some point you have to compromise things.
Mhm.
It's like politics, okay? You are never going to find the perfect politician. Never. If you find someone who agrees with you 100%, it's probably going to agree with you and that politician. That's about it. Okay. You're not, you have, at some point, you have to say, like, all right, I like him on this, this, and this, but I don't like him on this. What's my best option? It's like going to buy a car. I need a car that does this, this, and this. I can't afford top of the line. I'll settle for this. It's the same thing. It's like, where are we going to go to eat? Well, you don't like this, but I don't quite hate this as much as this. It's like, it's spam, spam, spam. It's like, well, you can order this one. It doesn't have quite as much spam. Like, same thing. But you have to say, like, all right, all these people that are sitting there playing with toys, buying toys and putting them around a room and whatnot,
Mhm.
those people probably have more traditional things in line with you than the other side that hates all these properties, that doesn't want the classic Luke Skywalker, that wants to see him drink green kitty milk and all that stuff. You're alienating these people at a time when you need to be, you're not going to find a purist. You're not going to, it's like religions that sit there and say, like, there's a Christian joke that goes out there. It's like, so there's this guy, Bob, and he dies and he goes up to heaven, and St. Peter meets him at the gates, and he's like, Bob, how you doing? Like, it's like, I want to get you a cup of coffee, show you around the place. Like, okay, here's door number 1. In here are the Jews, God's chosen people. Like, they get in here. Next room's the Catholics here. Like, and then we get over here to the Lutherans and stuff like that. Now, be very quiet as you go past door number 8. He says, why do I got to be quiet? Why does I go past door number 8? He says, that's the Baptists. They think they're the only ones here. And it's like, it's just like, well, I've actually known people that say, like, if you don't pronounce, you can't say God, you can't say Jesus, you have to say Yahweh and Yeshua, because if you don't say that, they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
What if you're mute? What if you can't speak?
Because God has many names.
Yeah.
What if
It's like the King James onlyist kind of crowd too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, now there's a lot of people that have hang-ups with Mormons and stuff like that. Mormons are some of the best behaved people in the world. They go on mission trips and stuff like that. Yeah, but they have these weird, so what? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? That's for God to sort out. Okay. That's not your place. Okay. How are people acting? How are they behaving? It's like, and what you can, but this is the thing, like, you're alienating people. Now, if you're sitting there playing with toys and you're blowing the mortgage money on toys, yeah, you've got a serious problem, and
that is a problem.
You're not grown up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you're, but if it's something you like, I mean, I like the artistry of it. I like the throwback. I like the idea of, like, do I sit there and have shootouts with, like, no. Try different poses and different backgrounds and things like, whoa, that looks really cool. And then you change it up and stuff like that. It's like, it's having a statue that you can move and change around a little bit. And it's having
like the technical aspects of it.
Yeah. And it looks cool. And it's like, whoa, that's really neat. I've never shown, I've had a lot of people look at this stuff and go, oh boy, until they hold a Hot Toys figure, like, holy shit, that's scary how realistic that looks. I know, it's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had people like, I'd never get one of them. And then they get one. It's like, oh. But yeah, so Matt Walsh needs to take a chill pill, because he's the kind of person that alienates people. You don't have, meanwhile, like, the left side of things has put out this image for the last 40 years about how welcoming and how open they are and how accepting. Meanwhile, you keep losing. Now, as you get older, you will get more conservative, because you start to find out, that stuff that doesn't work. It doesn't. That doesn't work. Like, you want all this stuff when you're young. You find out, that wasn't the best idea. It doesn't work. And you find out, like, when you're young, you're idealistic, and you think that everybody should have, food and housing and stuff like that, until you realize that like you're getting 40% of your paycheck because you're paying for people that won't work for themselves. Not can't, but won't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you've told them they deserve these things just because they're here. Like, no, you need to work. You need to carry your own weight if you can. There's nobody,
Yeah.
virtually nobody, who's going to argue with you that the people that can't help themselves should be helped.
Hmm.
But the people that won't is the issue. Now, if you're one of those guys who's not working and you're still like, and you're asking for money, and then somebody gives you money and then you go buy toys with it, screw you. You're an asshole.
Yep.
Because that's something somebody took away from
Yeah.
themselves to help you, and you didn't do that. Like, but that's part of being an adult. And hard times happen for people. I got a friend of mine a couple years ago. They had this record-breaking flooding that happened on the Schuylkill River, and his house was completely gutted. So his wife and his 3 kids had to, move into this, like, rent this apartment while he's doing, like, trying to put this house back together. And things like that can happen. Bad things happen to good people. Sometimes it does. But it's how you deal with it and how you. So if we're talking about, this is my hobby and I've got all my other ducks in a row, all my other priorities are straight, I've got some extra cash, and I'm gonna go and buy this thing that I always wanted.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, that's right. That's the correct term right there. It's not just buying toys. It's a hobby, and
Right.
and everybody's encouraged to get hobbies. I mean, in fact, like how many times have we seen like interactions between everybody else? Well, not only will they ask you what you do for a living, but they'll ask you what's your hobbies, or they'll even if I've seen like introduction paperwork, believe it or not, in the Navy, if we go to like another command, they'll ask like, what are your hobbies or interests? Because they just want to kind of genuinely like want to know. And so I'll tell them my hobbies. And I like, I mean, how many times, I mean, who goes to the hobby store more of the times? Is it the adults or is it the kids? If you go to a hobby store, it's usually the adults. We're going to build models.
Yep.
We'll build model trains. I miss my HO scale model trains I used to have when I was a kid, and I had those for a long time.
He likes them hose.
He like the hose and the O's. Anyway, and they give it to me at the end. Anyway, so anyway, there's all my. Anyway, there's the other thing I think with Matt Walsh, it's kind of funny because I actually have a copy of Johnny the Walrus, his children's book, and I thought that was kind of hilarious that all of a sudden we're starting to go into like we're talking about, we don't want to talk about little kids, but I can see where it comes from. But also Matt also got himself in trouble with his whole anti-anime thing that he did about a month ago. And I mean, that's really bad. I've been a fan of anime for a long time, and
ditto.
And hail to Brandon, the anime guy, if he's here or not. But anyway, he kind of got himself into trouble on that one because it is the same thing. It's anime is not just something that I'll bring it full circle. I'm a huge Trekkie. That's how I found Doomcock in the first place, was because I've been a Trekkie since I was 6 years old. And the thing is that I do like to get collectibles. I do have good memories as a kid when I have collectibles, but once again, those are collectibles. That's not me going around flying a model of the Enterprise going pew 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 pew, and making up story. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, thanks, Joe. That's a good movie, by the way. You guys should watch that. That's a really good movie. But it's hobbies are something that just builds us. It builds character. It gives us something to do, especially in our off time. I mean, especially for men, as we all know, that a lot of times when guys retire and they stop working, they die sooner. This means it's been statistically shown that. Yeah. And that's why a lot of times, especially for us older men, when we get into that time where we're not able to go out and interact as much as we can or be active as we can, they encourage us to go out and find a hobby, do something. Put some work into something, not like a job, but actually just put in some time. Do something that you enjoy, and you can connect with other men or other people on a similar hobby topic. So, yeah.
You know, it's funny
Yeah.
that
No, I mean,
go ahead, Mike.
oh, okay. No, I mean because what I was going to say. I mean, you know, it's kind of funny. Like with Andy, it's sort of kind of similar with me. You know, growing up, I didn't have very many friends, and you know, like when I was younger, I mean, Andy, I guess we're pretty much close to the same age, but you know, we watched Saturday morning cartoons, and that's you know, back in the day, back in the 80s, that's when you actually had shows when you were a kid that actually had
I miss
characters
Saturday
that
morning
were
cartoons.
heroic.
And the worst
You
thing that could
know,
happen was you
when you
overslept
actually,
on Saturday, missed some
yeah,
cartoons.
I woke up at
exactly.
4 in the
That's
morning
right. You
every
missed them
Saturday
all.
morning to prep myself for Saturday morning cartoons. 4
But
in the morning.
yeah, thing is with you know, because nowadays they don't teach those heroic values. So when you're growing up, even reading comics, you know, you had Captain America. You had a plethora of characters that did heroic things that taught an actual good lesson between right and wrong. Right?
Hmm.
Like
You remember
originally,
the public
I
service
wanted to be a
announcements?
comic book artist. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
the
But we
PSAs
as
after
kids,
all,
just
like
have
GI
fun.
Joe or He Man.
And Transformers and stuff like that. Yeah, they all
Yeah.
had, you know, like lessons, right?
Oh yeah.
Like originally I wanted to be a comic book artist. My dad was from the old country, like, you know, he came from Austria after World War II, literally on the tail end of World War II. So everything was about a trade with him. But I found a compromise around that and wanted to be a graphic designer. I love to doodle. I am not a mechanic. I am not mechanically inclined or electrically inclined. And I tried to make my dad happy trying to take industrial instrumentation technology. I do not have the aptitude for it. Does it make me any less of a man? No, not really, because I learned extremely valuable lessons growing up because of him. But the point is, you know, I can see in one way where Matt Walsh is coming from, but the point is that our generation, like for example, Andy and myself, Generation X, you know, as you get older, you tend to reminisce about when life was good as a kid and things that you learned as you were a kid from great examples from when we were watching, say, a particular cartoon or reading a particular comic book or something like that, or maybe even a movie, like, I don't know, Schwarzenegger or Stallone or whatever, right? You grew up with these fine examples. You knew what was black and white, what was right and wrong. And with myself, like, I'm a fan of Transformers. Uh, you know, I used to collect the toys when I was a kid, but I kind of get out of that. And I started collecting what they call the masterpiece line, right? It's more fine detail, it's more better articulation, stuff like that. So it's kind of like your toys in a way grew up, right? But they're for adult collectors, like a lot of these other ones, like Moss Toys or you know, or like Hot Toys or anything like that, right? They're more for, yes, they're classified as toys, but they're mainly for adult collectors,
You would
right?
never give something that expensive
So
to
as
a
growing
child.
up, no, God no.
Yeah.
But the thing is because I so enjoyed this franchise, for example, Transformers, um, because say for example, let me give you an example, okay? When Marvel did Transformers, right? And they have the Transformer Universe Handbook that came out by Marvel. And the way it describes Optimus Prime, it's like, you know what? If Abraham Lincoln or you know, and a doctor and you know, and a healer were all wrapped up in one, it would be like Optimus Prime, right? A real true hero. And it stuck with me, right? Of somebody that is, you know, self-sacrificing, protecting the innocent. Even in his bio, you know, it kind of says it all, right? Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. And that kind of encapsulates what I think of this fictional character. But the point is I carried that, how should I say it? I carry that with me as a fan. And it got me drawing. And if it wasn't for stuff like that, I wouldn't have done, say, prototype work for Hasbro when I was doing a collectible card game back in the early 2000s. I wouldn't have designed something like this for a third party company. You know, that there's my company logo on there that I did. I helped actually design a figure like this. This is this is this is my box art on a product that is sold worldwide. It has got me into graphic design. This hobby of mine. If it wasn't for getting into graphic design because I was such a nerd, because I enjoyed figures like this, toys like this, then I wouldn't have ended up making, say, for example, a scale poster that I've sold worldwide. I wouldn't have gotten in contact with, say, TV producers and done cartoon character designs for TV show pitches. I wouldn't have been able to, say, make album covers for bands. I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of this stuff. Why? Because, like my mom said, if you can make your hobby your job, at least you go to work happy. Then you're not really working.
I'm gonna
done
really
out of a labor of love.
I'm gonna really sum this up in one element. All these things, the toys, the toys that people collect, nobody walks into it, no adult collector, and Comic Relief really summed this up. He made me think about this. We don't go in to a toy store, if there were such a thing anymore, and buy cool looking toys. We buy merchandise that is attached to an IP, an intellectual property, a franchise.
Yep.
Okay.
Beautiful Corsair in that picture.
Right. What this means is this is what has led humanity to civilization. Civilization has always been dependent upon the mythical stories that you tell. And this is where Doomcock's mission is like he says, it's our modern mythos, right?
Yep.
And so when we go in there, we're looking for representations of these stories. And this is what human beings have done forever. It's why there's statues of Greek heroes. There's not statues of Greek politicians, Matt Walsh. There's not statues of, there's some busts of Greek philosophers, but the majority of them are heroes, Hercules and all this stuff that look, larger than life. And that's what it is. We're getting something that's attached to these stories, and the stories are what give us civilization. I guarantee you, if you look at all these people, all these younger people leading these shallow, meaningless lives, and you ask them who their idols are, who their heroes are, and they can't tell you because they don't have any, because they haven't been immersed in this stuff when they were, in their formative years. I guarantee you, Comic Relief and I can probably read off from just memories some of the dialogue from favorite comic books and stuff like that. I wanted to be a comic book artist too when I was young. It was like, and then life happens. My parents got divorced. Then they're both diagnosed with terminal cancer, and there I was by the time I was 24 years old. Just the other day was the 31st anniversary of my mom's death. In a couple weeks would have been my father's 100th birthday. Okay.
Wow.
So all these things that wasn't going to be in the cards for me, but I still found a way to work on things that I loved. My dad said to me, you want to be an artist? Well, you better find a way to feed yourself, because you're not going to do it with art, and it's tough. But the core thing is the thing that will make you a better person are the stories and the tales and the heroism that are encapsulated in all these stories. That's what it always was. Read the Bible. It's all about, heroic people and things like that. The classic stories, in Norway, Greece, and all these, ancient civilizations. throughout China and everything. It's like it's about these heroes that happen. What is more traditional than that? Tales of sacrifice and things that like people have done, and that's what those toys represent, Matt Walsh. That's
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
those things are, the representations of these things. And if I can pick
Yep.
this thing up and say, you see this guy, these are all the great things that he did. And or kid goes, wow, I want to be like that. Or should we do what? Should we like, oh, look, here's this figure of a politician who's going to lie through his teeth, and say whatever he has to get elected. Then he's going to get into Congress and not do a damn thing. And he's going to give you a lot of lip service and tell you that he's, he's doing everything for you. But like, it's just so hard. Yeah. Okay. And how did you get rich? Why are you worth millions now when you just got paid 175 grand a year?
Hey, Andy,
And
just
five,
real quick,
Yep.
do you mind if I jump in?
right ahead, good.
Yeah, it's just gonna be real quick. So I couldn't help but notice this. The Lost Wanderer says toys, trains, etc. are, in my opinion, what allows men to recharge. He says, as well as women. If you grew up loving them, it takes you back to a peaceful place to recharge before the next challenge. That sounds like pretty
Exactly.
much everything men do. Is you do the thing, you work, maybe you build a thing at your house, property, whatever, and you have your fun and you recharge. I just wanted to get that out there because that was a really good response.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
No,
can I
it's
add
true.
something
That's
real
why
quick?
men have. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was going to say this is also what DC has been talking about as well. Is that this is why he and so many of us are passionate about not only our not only about like say like our collectibles or toys or whatever we have. We are looking for escapism because we've had a hard day at work.
Yep.
We just need to come home, like what you said earlier, Andy, is that we want to come home, we want to relax, we just want to kind of take a load off, we want to unwind. That's what we want to do. It's back to those peaceful times of where we didn't have a job and we didn't have to pay bills. We could just enjoy. I mean, my Saturdays when I was a kid growing up was spending about 6 to 8 hours with a big old suitcase full of Legos. And that was me, like for the whole day. I just built nothing but models all day long.
Yep.
And then I might set up I might modify them or anything like that. In fact, I played Legos for so long, I still have the instructions on how to build original Lego model airplanes still up here. So if you gave me some old Lego models, I could build them without the instructions.
Yeah.
So
No.
it's and when DC was when Doomcock gets passionate about when we like lose things like say Star Wars or we lose things like Star Trek, that was our escapism. And we're already kind of wound up from a hard day of work. And maybe we want to just come home and relax. And if we don't have that ability to kind of like vent or let off steam or whatever in some way or form, we just, well, honestly, we stay angry.
Well, that's it. Because,
Exactly.
look,
Yeah.
I don't know what Matt Walsh's life was like. I would imagine it's kind of like normal, and normal means that like not my life.
Yeah.
If you can go and you've had a lot of fulfillment in your life, and you grew up and you had friends and you went out and did things and all that stuff, and you played sports and rode bikes, and you were a popular kid. Great, that's great for you. Okay, that wasn't my experience. Okay, so I go and I'm going to go and I'm going to to get something that's going to take me back to a point in my life where things were simple. Because for a lot of us, it wasn't simple. You went into school, you had people making fun of you, you didn't have any friends, you're like, you feel like you're completely alone in the world. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have any of this stuff that where you could connect to like-minded people. Every once in a while, like in my case, every time I would make a friend, they would move away. Happened over and over again. And it broke my
Or
heart
they
when the
end up
same thing
sending
happened
you
to my
back.
son. And it's like, but now you get something that maybe this taught you some lessons, maybe it gave you some reference, and it gave you, and so those of us that didn't have these perfect lives and stuff like that, we still went out and we still did our jobs, came home from work, and found something that interests us to do.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
what is your alternative? Because if you're not giving these kids these positive messages and these things to get into, they're going to be susceptible to all the people that are going around telling them just how terrible life is and all this commercialism and stuff like that, while they sit there on their fancy computers and fancy phones that capitalism bought them. Or you can teach them like
Yeah.
all this stuff exists because someone made something and was paid for it because they deserve it. It gave you something, then you give something back. It's like it's not a zero-sum game. It's like you create wealth that way. You create things this way. What is more conservative than that? And this idiot is
Yeah.
too friggin' dumb to see it because he's so smart that he can ask what a woman is. Well, but they can't, that's the thing. Like you've got to get to a point where
Mhm.
you have to realize that the stories that you tell are vital. And that's why they're destroying the heroes. That's why they're targeting them. That's why they want
No,
to tell
exactly.
you that they were
Exactly.
bad and all these things were bad and like, oh,
Yep.
don't be proud of your history and stuff like that. Oh, bullshit.
Yeah,
When you
well,
can-
and with,
No, because
and
because the thing is my daughter, who our youngest daughter, who's now 13, she has not, aside from Pokemon, but only occasionally, she has not watched any cartoons her age. She has always watched stuff that I used to watch when I was her age. And that's why she'll sit down, she'll watch an 80s cartoon, she'll get so enthralled with it. She has watched probably with me every Transformer episode that has come out, right? Or GI Joe, or maybe a little bit of He-Man or something like that. She just finds it more fun, more engaging. The heroes are better, right? The mythos, like what you were saying earlier, Andy. Like this is our modern day mythos, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, you're right. I mean, we there are statues of of David, or another one of Hercules. You see the whole pantheon in Greece and whatnot, right? Because they were their heroes. Well, this is basically the same thing, right? No, they're not gods that we're worshiping, but it's essentially, in a roundabout sort of way, kind of the same thing, because they gave us an ideal to strive for, right? Whether it's a cartoon or whether it's a comic book or whether it's a movie, like say in Star Wars or even Star Trek or Indiana Jones or whatever, it doesn't matter. It was the message of good versus evil,
and I would add one thing to
and
that.
that's it.
It also helps you to understand how to relate to people. Like there's
Yes.
especially these days. All right, so we've got like you've got a lot of these younger kids that are on the spectrum and things like that, and part of the struggles with things like autism spectrum is that you don't necessarily know how to relate to other people, and you get to read these stories and you get to see how they how friends interact, and you get to see how
Yep.
it's like, oh, and that's and these are some of the ways that like, and if you didn't have a whole lot of friends that because like maybe you were the odd kid out there and like you didn't get
Yeah.
that thing, you don't know boundaries. With my
Mm.
son, like he would say things, and I had to create this game with him and say, look, we're going to do this thing. I'm going to bring up a scenario and you tell me whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. And that's how like got him to navigate things, because a lot of people think, well, you should just know that. How? Why are you assuming people should just know that? You've got to learn these things. You've got to learn what you can and
Yep.
now it's even more important for people to do this, because
Oh
there's a
yeah.
certain group in society that is
Hmm.
very restricted on what you're allowed to say. The
Yep.
only group that has any restrictions on what they're allowed to say.
Yep.
There's other people that
Right.
can say pretty much whatever they want and be applauded
Mhm.
for it.
Yep.
But this group has to sit there and be very careful about what you say and what you joke around and what you kid about. And
Exactly.
it's like you have to, and some of it, all right, and that's the thing. It's like it's where's the line? Where's the line of like between what's good taste and what's obnoxious? Like I just saw a whole bunch of things going on. Somebody had passed away, and there were people taking shots at this guy for like his stance on certain medical procedures. And there's a time and a place, and the older I get, like, look, me and my brothers were up there at my mom's casket, and we're cracking jokes at like her family as they're walking in, and we're up there like laughing like and chuckling while my mom's in a casket there. But that's my family. We're sarcastic. We're a little, and that's how we deal with it. And maybe they couldn't understand whatever. I really didn't care, but like I was never going to see them again anyway. But not everyone's like that. And for somebody out there, this guy dying is very painful. And might not be the best time to make the joke about it, and you can later on, you can say like that, like, all right, hey, look, I've had lots of friends that have died from addiction. And there's a lot of people that say, well, that's what you get for taking that. Like, oh, thanks. That's really great for you to say that. Have you ever been there? Have you ever known what it's like? Like, well, no. Well, then shut up. No.
Exactly.
And this is what Matt Walsh is he's doing the same thing. He has no idea what he's talking about, just like the anime thing, but he's offering an opinion. You know what? How about if he were to say, I wonder why these people are buying toys? Maybe I should look into that.
Do something investigative.
Well, I think one of the things that we should also point out is that also Matt Walsh is a father too. And even if we were to say that because of the different subject, like for example, since my biological oldest is 3 years old, my stepson is 20, so I don't have to play with him. But anyways, my oldest
I bet you
is 3
watch
years
movies
old.
with him.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we actually just watched Andor, or at least I watched Andor again. He watched it for the first time and he loved it. Anyway, the thing is that I one of the things that kids cling on to that they remember the most is their interactions with their parents, and a lot of times that will have to be with playing toys. And if that's you, like one of the coolest things is that I don't know if you ever heard of this toy company called Brio. That's BRIO. They used to. They're still in business today. I have my original Brio train set with me that I had back in the 80s. Nice. And I passed it along to my son, and he loves building with it. And it's really cool. It's in an old Spalding like duffel bag that I had since the 80s, and it's still together. But he loves playing with it, and it brings back memories. And the thing is that not only does it bring back memories for me, but when you interact, when you genuinely play with your children, like, yep, that's it. When you genuinely play with your children, they're going to remember those times. I mean, when my dad, he would play with me as often as he could, but he was also the same thing. Like where I am is that I'm the worker. My mom was my dad was the worker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Just like in our situation, I'm the worker. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. And whenever we get a chance to play with them, we're going to play with them. And a lot of times you actually start getting interested in even the toy lines. Like, for example, he's also liking Paw Patrol. And so we've been taking interest in Paw Patrol. And sometimes whenever I like go to Walmart or something, I just walk down the toy aisles like, hey, I wonder what they have down here. Not like I'm going to play by myself, but like something that I can play with my son so we can enjoy our time together.
Yep. I think with toys is I have Lego, I have of course action figures and everything, and I have movie props. I think and I try to understand what Matt Walsh was trying to say. I may agree or disagree with him sometimes. I was like, you could say that a lot better. But to me, if a guy is just spending his money, blowing it on toys and just collectibles and not really advancing himself and bettering himself to being a man, that's a big issue. You're still,
for sure.
To me, you're still being a child, and you're still being a kid, and you're not learning what maturity is and what it is to be a grown up and an adult. And I think if for like adults, I think everyone on the panel can agree, like, yeah, we like to buy things that make us feel like kids again and bring back memories of being kids again. I think that's totally fine. I think if you're just, well, I'm gonna go buy this set because I can, and you're not worried about what the real world is, then that becomes an issue.
Yep.
It's like, you know,
Yeah.
Can I throw something in just real quick?
yeah.
When I was on deployment, this is a long time ago, 2012. So about 10 years. Wow, it has been 10. Sheesh. Anyway, we had, I was on an LHD, which is the actual Marine transport. So I was, it's one of the ships that actually transports the Marines. And I worked with a lot of Marines, and it's kind of funny when Marines go all out on anything, they will go all out. But I had one of the things in our shop I work in, we're actually considered, my rate is considered like the geeks of the Navy, which is kind of funny. But when the Marines would come in, one of the biggest things that they wanted to do is that they wanted to set up we actually had D&D tournaments in the shop. There used to be like a DOMA network that they set up too. We had Magic the Gathering. Everything was like in the shop, but they went all out. But I had this one guy, this one Marine, he was a corporal. And this guy literally used to blow $300 a paycheck while on deployment on Magic cards. And that,
Yeah, I believe it.
yeah, and it was kind of funny when they left. We had to we were in charge of cleaning up what the Marines left behind. I opened a drawer in my shop, and it was just full of Magic cards that he just didn't want.
Wow.
He blew literally $300 a paycheck. We're not talking a month, a paycheck. We get paid twice a month, so that's $600 a month on Magic the Gathering cards. That's insane. So, yeah.
Well, I know I get movie props and I get little things that remind me of the movies, and I collect DVDs, and I'm kind of slowly getting out of that. And my wife says, you have way too many movie props and everything. I was like, there's not enough room. I'll buy a house just for all my movie props. I'm not shitting you. I would. But I think it becomes a health issue. If a guy is just spending $600 a month on Magic cards and not even going to use them or show them off or any of that stuff, it becomes an health issue that you need to kind of look at yourself. Like, what else are you going to provide? Like, I look at it as like, what is this going to benefit you in the end? Like, if I have kids and they watch a movie like Goonies, and they're like, oh, that was cool, or Indiana Jones, it's like, yeah, I got the Holy Grail. Like, I can shock them. And I think being a dad, it's a little bit different. It puts you in a different category that you can have the toys, you can get the toys. And I know with Andy where it separated a little bit. And I think that it happens a lot. And I think with guys is when they have kids, it kind of helps them be kids again because they have kids.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well,
yeah.
I'll interrupt you for a second, Steve.
Yeah.
What it
It does.
It's like there's one of the objections I have, like there are parents, I've had this debate with some parents who they didn't want to, lie to their children about Santa Claus. And
Right.
which I thought is like, childhood is such a small part of your life. A very, very brief period where you're actually capable of believing in magic. And my thoughts are like, you know what? Let them have it. Let them enjoy that little bit of magic for it's only going to be a little bit of time that they get that, and then life is going to crush that joy and that magic out of them soon enough anyway. Let them have that little spark. So when I can sit down there with my kids and show them and get that, to try and impart some of that same joy that I got out of these things. Here, check this out, watch this, and wow. And you see the look of wonder on their face, and you know that you facilitated that. Ultimately, most people, I believe, this is just a gut feeling. I don't have any empirical evidence for it. Most people at some point want to have a family and children. And it is the most rewarding, and you'll never love anything as much, but you'll never worry about anything as much. And the hardest part is to accept that there's going to be certain things that you're powerless with when it comes to that. But if you can do things that are going to make, Jersey said, with the something that's going to last with your kids, you look at guys like Gary, when the stuff that he does with, the guy can take ordinary things and transform it into something that looks like, oh my God, you just made this ordinary thing look completely like off some spaceship or something like that. That's you twisted it upside down, put some paint on it here, glued a couple things on it here, and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And so much so that it kind of gets lost in the background, that you're like, wow, that's incredible. And the skills that he's learned doing that. Well, at some point, I hope he gets the chance to to make these things for for kids of his own, that he can do these things with, and wow. I mean, and that's what it comes down to, is this ability to pass that on to your own kids. Because, and this is the thing that that people don't understand, and you will get people that will make this argument to you. Once you have your own kids, it's completely different. You can't explain it. It's just there are certain things in life, and I know that the popular culture, the left stuff, doesn't want to accept this, but there's certain things in life that are exclusive to people that have an experience. There is no man will ever understand what a menstrual cramp feels like. No man will ever understand what it feels like to give birth. No woman will ever understand what it's like to get kicked in the balls. No woman will ever understand the male sex drive. There's nothing in female existence that is the same as that. The most you can say is tell them, imagine being constantly hungry, and you're always surrounded by the most delicious food in the world, and you're not allowed to eat it. It's always on, it's always there, it's always playing in the background.
Yeah.
Women do not have that experience. And there's men, we can't understand how we can walk into a room and a woman can have the TV on, be on the phone with her sister, having a conversation and feeding kids, and keep track of all of it. We're and meanwhile they say excuse me, you just maybe forget what I was doing, and we have to walk back in the room and walk back in again to hopefully try and remember, because we can focus on one thing at a time. But there's certain things and having children is one of those things. Having children is one of those things that's and that's what you're really doing, is and that's why things like toys and stuff like that are so important, that you pass on to your children, because those things gave you values, and therefore they can give your children values. Because if you don't give your children values, there's some professor out there who's going to tell them that they can cut things off and live in this fantasy world and shove some frozen tomato paste up an orifice, and and they can be a real girl.
Everything I've learned is a lie.
You're not helping anyone.
Exactly.
And what we're doing is we're teaching these kids that all that matters is physical appearance and what you say you are. You're living in a delusion. Okay? You can have, ultimately, your body's going to change. You're not going to look the same as you did. You have a very brief window to be able to find a somebody to settle down with and all this stuff. You got a very brief window to capture in your youth to do these things. And when you get older, and I can attest to this because I'm old, I've lived through a lot of these things. I've lived through phases in my life that I thought were going to stick around forever, and they didn't. I've lived through these things where, like,
No, they do
you
not.
think that you think this thing's going to be there. It's going to be there forever. I'm always going to feel this way until you don't. And then at the end, all you're left with is a bunch of regret because somebody talked you into something instead of you being patient and saying, let's see how it plays out. Let's see how this goes.
Well,
There's a lot of us that are never going to be professional wrestlers. There's a lot of us that are never going to be professional baseball players. There's a lot of us that aren't going to ever look like Brad Pitt. It's like, but guess
Damn
what?
it.
Yeah.
Or not.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the Barbie's proportions are
No,
unrealistic.
and you know
so
what?
are He-Man.
And that's okay.
Yeah, but aspire to
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
You know,
Well-
try.
What, like,
Exactly. Dream.
one of the things.
Fight to maybe try to achieve something in your life so that at the end of the race or even close to the race, you don't have any regrets. And you can honestly say to yourself, I tried. You know what? And I got this far, and at least I'm proud of myself for getting this far. You know what? Maybe you might not finish the race, and that's okay. If you gave it your best shot, then at least you can honestly tell yourself, you know what? I tried. I failed, but you know what? Damn it. I tried really hard. And that's okay, because if you fail to try, you'll never know what happened. But if
And those
try
failures-
and fail, then at least you gave it your best shot. If you succeed, that's a bonus. But
Yeah.
at least through failure, you can learn, and maybe you can adapt something that'll take you the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the
You might
things
find another route that might be a shortcut, might be a little bit longer. Don't know. But keep
Yeah.
striving. Keep in mind, you know, a lesson that you learned could be from a comic, could be from your dad, could be from a cartoon that you watch, something positive. But take that little nugget, and if it can keep you going a little bit more, super. And
Well,
if you
one
can
of the
impart
things
that to a kid of yours, whether it's a daughter, whether it's a son, super. Then at least they'll carry that lesson on, and hopefully to their kids, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eddie, I
I-
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're
No,
good.
that's
I-
what it's all about.
For me, it was I
Yeah.
did film, and I went to college and did film and did the whole thing for about 7 some years before, and I was like, I hate this, and met Gary at a coffee shop that I was working at, and he thought I was some hipster liberal kind of beta guy, and then he
Wait,
saw
you're
my
not.
tattoos on one of my arms. He's like, "Oh shit, you're all right. You're patriotic," and I was like, "Well, yeah." And he taught me, he kind of oh man, I can't even think of the word right now. Whatever, my education.
Reinvigorated.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
All right.
And he taught me how to build models and do all these things. And I'm just dumbfounded. I was like, why aren't people doing this stuff? And it made me appreciate building things and doing things and creative things. And I think when it comes to toys and everything, I think a lot of guys they lose that. I don't know if you guys ever watched Finding Neverland, the one with Johnny Depp in it.
Yeah,
And
it's really good.
in that movie, I'm a sucker. There's only a few movies that make me cry. I don't cry much during movies unless it's like really like emotional, hits me real home. But Finding Neverland really hit home because it was about imagination. And a lot of guys lose that when they get a certain age. Doesn't matter. It could be at any age it's possible. And that movie really taught me about imagination, of how when we get older, we kind of start losing that imagination because we get so involved of We need to work. We need to do these things. We need to do everything else possible.
Mhm.
And with guys, I feel it's imagination is kind of key. And if we can balance out buying toys, buying all these things, props, castings, whatever it is, cars, guns, magazines, DVDs, whatever it possibly could be of a hobby, those are our keys to what our imagination is, what we grow up on. Some
Mhm.
like Transformers, some like G.I. Joe, some like other things, Lego, anything possible. And if we balance that out and look, this is my imagination, this is reality. I want to be in the middle where I can focus on reality right now, and then when I'm done with that, I can go to here. And I
Mhm.
think that kind of helps us when we become dads. I don't know. I'm on a panel with 3 guys who are dads. I don't know what it is to be a dad. I do know it does change you once you get kids.
Well,
And
I'll tell you this as
One day,
the
son.
benefit of being a
One
dad
day.
is now you have the excuse to play with toys again.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's to me when I have
Exactly.
kids,
Exactly.
it's gonna open this whole idea of I can build Legos, I can do this, I can do that, and as long as we keep the imagination in us, then it means we're preserving our ideas of what we grew up in and then teach our kids. Like if let's say I get a daughter, $2 or $3, no sons, it suck because then I got to pay for all the damn weddings, but it gives me an opportunity to be like, hey, look, I can teach you how to get a guy, a real man. I can teach you how I can be the example of what it is to be a man. And if it's like she wants to do tea
3
party,
daughters, 1 son.
yeah, dude, that's like 11 and 0, 11 and 1 right there.
Yeah.
But
Let me tell you something. You are not, and until you wear a tiara and step the party with your daughter.
that's
So
where
there you
I'm getting
go.
to. If
Keep that in mind.
let's say I get daughters and they're like, I want to have a playtime or a tea time with dad, and I have to wear a tiara, and they were like, let's paint your nails. I'll do that because those are my kids.
You don't do that now?
Hell no, I don't do that now. I don't got kids. I got a dog. That's all I got.
All
But
right, just making sure. It was very detailed.
the point I have is when we get kids, it's a little bit different with guys. Is when we get kids, those toys will mean a lot more.
Mhm.
I know let's say I get sons, I can teach them everything I know when I'm growing up with like Transformers and G.I. Joes, Legos, all those stuff that builds character for my sons. But if I have daughters, I'm gonna sacrifice watching Frozen or Moana or whatever. God, dude, Moana, I've listened to that soundtrack going on a family trip.
Not
I want to
necessarily.
play that. But the thing is, it's as long as fathers understand.
Because my daughters.
What?
Yeah.
Like if fathers understand, like I'm doing this for my
Not
kids.
necessarily, because you know what? Yeah.
I don't know. I think it
because
comes down to,
I have daughters. They were never girly girls, which is okay.
Well, here's the.
But
the
I know
brutal
what you're
truth.
saying.
Here's the brutal truth. Okay, you can have all the expectations you want,
Mhm.
but don't plan on it.
right? No,
Chances
totally.
are it's not like I had all these expectations of like all these things I could pass on to my kids, and didn't quite work out that way. Some things did, some things they gravitated to, some things they didn't. I have a lot of things in common with my son. I have a lot of things in common with my daughter. Now, there's a lot of guys out there that will think that having sons is the end all be all, and that daughters are the worst things ever. Couple things. Your sons will drive you crazy when they do the things that you hate most about yourself. You'll get very angry when they do those things. Your sons, when you have certain expectations and they procrastinate on things just like you did, it's going to drive you crazy. But most importantly, at some point,
Yep.
your son will turn around and say to you, "Hey, Dad." And you turn and you look at him and he shrugs his shoulders, says, like, "I figure I'm getting too old to call you daddy anymore." That never happens with your daughter. You're always daddy. You'll always be daddy.
True.
And
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah,
magic
that's
in
true.
both of them.
That is so true.
There's a magic
know-
in both things. And so, yeah, but you'll have expectations. You'll be able to, like, I was really looking forward to teaching both my kids martial arts and stuff like that. And guess what? They don't want to do. My son did it, like, and he's going to get back. He gets back into it every once in a while and just back in. But, like, not to the extent that, like, and he would have friends that, like, "Why are you down here doing this all the time?" He's like, "Yeah, because they grow up around it. It's not new. It's not nothing special." Like,
Yeah.
my daughter said, like, that she would, was shocked to find out when she would talk to other friends that, like, their dads didn't build them gigantic doll houses on the 3rd floor and, like, and make all kinds of American Girl doll furniture for them and learn how to sew so that her dolls can have any kind of dress that they wanted. Never wore a tiara, and I never had a tea party. My daughter wasn't into that, but I built plenty of things for all the stuffed animals to do. So we worked on the farm, the imaginary farm, but, like, that was, then as she got older, then she got into all the, the girly stuff.
Yeah.
But she's still, now she's on the powerlifting team and
there you go.
buys tons of makeup. So go figure.
Well, let me add on top of that, when one of the things is on my last deployment, I left before my oldest son, he was 2 at the time. I left before he was actually able to even say any words. And the thing was
Right.
that my wife said she's going to make sure she's going to make an effort that he's going to say daddy by the time I get home. And she started sending me videos of him learning to speak, which was great. And it was kind of funny. I actually remember I actually had the original Top Gun with me, and I would watch the part where Goose meets up with his wife and young Rooster at the time, and they're meeting up, and he says daddy, and it, like, hit me like a ton of bricks, like just like thinking of just that part where he goes daddy.
Yeah.
And then when I got home, my son hadn't seen me for a while, and then he saw me and he put his arms out and he said daddy for the first time. And at that time I was about 300 pounds. And
Nice.
when he called me daddy for the first time, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I told myself I can't do this anymore. And that's when I dropped all that weight, because it was just hearing your own child, your own flesh and blood call you daddy or something like that. It just changes a man.
Yep. Indeed.
Feels so good.
You watch the volleyball.
You know what?
Scene, don't
Interesting
lie.
side note. in Top Gun,
Here we go. I want some butts. I want
in
butts.
Top Gun, Rooster.
Yeah.
When Rooster was a kid in Top Gun, you know what? He had a plane. He had a toy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it was? Starscream.
No. Was it
Sure enough.
Starscream?
Little interesting fact. So,
Wow.
it's Starscream.
Mm-hmm.
You go back and you look, that's Starscream G1 Transformers. So
Nice.
But you know what? To sum it up, who makes the toys? Adults.
I do.
If it wasn't for those adults' imagination,
Yep.
the Chinese. But you know what? If it wasn't for those adults' imagination by making toys in the first place, well, we wouldn't really have toys, would we?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we wouldn't have. If it wasn't for any adults displaying imagination, we wouldn't have the movies that we do. We wouldn't have the figures that we do. We wouldn't have the comics that we do.
Mm.
So you know what? that sums it all up.
Yep.
If it wasn't for
Oh.
adults having imagination, we wouldn't
Oh, yeah.
have what we have now.
Well, and don't forget the vast majority
What was
of
that?
toy lines are the ones that
Yeah.
started those shows like He-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They were all started as toy lines before they became shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On that note,
So
last thing I
No.
want to say is Lego does a really good job of coming up with new ideas of creativity. And
they do.
before we end the show, I want to go around the table. Everyone can plug in anything, give their final thoughts of anything. Comic Relief Crusader, anything you want to plug in or want to your last thoughts or anything? Yours?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I am the Cleve Crusader. You can go ahead and check out my channel under the same name right over there. Right. Where I just basically talk about, like everybody else talks about, pop culture, comics, movies, TV shows, you name it. And of course, occasional figure that I'll bring up because I do third party companies, like what you just saw here tonight, for example, like this. Graphic designer, I wouldn't say extraordinary, but that's for others to decide. So if there's anything you need designed or anything like that, get a hold of me, either on my channel or at freelancegraphics.com. That's freelancegraphiks.com.
And JRC.
And join us every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm JRC99US. I've been on YouTube since 2007. I like to put together projects of things that interest me. So I really don't have a huge theme, but definitely give a shout out to my brothers in Xanadoom, Rancor Steve, Andy Masterson, Gary Ambrosia, X and Iron Man, everybody here, Doomcock. It's been a great community to be part of, and I just enjoy everybody's company. And this is a great opportunity to do a show like this. Thank you.
And Andy, anything you want to plug in or last thoughts?
No, just I like the idea of that Steve came up with this show, because it gives people sometimes, like the last thing I wanted to touch on when you're talking about failure, sometimes failure is your best friend. Sometimes like you'll spend so much time and effort putting into something that you really wanted, and sometimes the worst thing that can happen is you get it. And failure, there's a beauty in disappointment. There's something that you learn, and you have to remember that some things have to get cleared away so other things, better things, can take their place. So there's no such thing as a failure. That failure is the birth pains of a new beginning. And as long as you keep that in mind and you keep moving yourself in a direction, you won't be a failure. And whether it's people like that, you'll have people you respect. There's somebody like a Matt Walsh who's like opinions that I do like sometimes, and he says something like this, but I can turn around and tell him like to go kiss my ass in Gimbel's window because there's certain things he doesn't know about. Okay. You have that ability, and keep yourself, be responsible, do the things that you have to do. Playtime is for playtime, and everybody's going to have it. But just make sure the bills are paid first.
Yes. Yes.
On that note, I just want to say to all the panels, it was great to have you guys on, and everyone in the chat, thank you for joining. The GOAT, I know we tried some new transitions of things, and we're testing out some new things to make.
You're transitioning?
Oh man, okay. I got some shoes for this.
Anyway, everybody, welcome to Man-O-Rama. This is a show where we talk about. Oh, sorry.
This is about a guy who just knows everything. I
mean, if we're gonna make jokes like this, I'm officially putting this on the screen.
Oh,
damn it. And leave it to Goat to just, boom, there you go.
fabulous.
The whole we're transitioning
Ooh,
into
Angry
new different areas to stream and stuff, so we're trying some new things out. I just want to give props to the Goat. He is the GOAT of everything. I've known Goat for such a long time, and him actually just jumping on to helping out with this show. This show couldn't have happened. I mean, I could have done this just on the YouTube live thing, but just him jumping on and just being like, "Hey, I can do this and this," is pretty awesome, and I thank him very much for actually getting the show going. Dude, you are pretty much the coolest dude on the planet. And if anybody in the chat that has any questions or wants to reach out, you can catch me out on Twitter at Rancor Steve, or you can find our videos here on the channel on YouTube, Rancor Steve. Eventually, we're going to be on Rumble. We're going to work that one out soon. And yeah, so we'll be here. If there's not a storm coming into fucking California, God, dude, it's been raining all night.
What do you mean coming? I thought there was already a storm in California.
Dude, there's a storm. It's supposedly there's a Category 3 hurricane. I've been through hurricanes.
You were up to 6.
6, I don't know. 7, who knows? But we'll be here next week, and
it'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. No way. But no, it's you guys come back next week. We'll have a new show, new topics, everything. So I just want to thank everyone who's on the panel and everyone in the chat. If you want, you can share this. That's of your own free will to do that. Thank you for everyone. You guys have a good weekend. We'll be here next week at 6 p.m. Pacific time. If there's no storm, we'll be here.
Okay.
Next week at 6 p.m.
All right. Good night, everybody.